Now, I don't know whether this video is going to get copyright claimed, because this is the first one that I've done from GB News, and I can't see anywhere online that somebody else has covered this. So it is either that no one cares what Nigel Farage and Jacob Rees-Mogg has to say, or other creators just stay away from it because GB News has previous. I don't know. I'm guessing I'm going to find out. But fuck! How can one man talk so much nonsense in such little time? It's just mind-boggling listening to Jacob Rees-Mogg spout out complete nonsense. I tell you what, just take a look at this clip.
That's good. There was a piece written by Cheryl Jacobs in yesterday's Daily Telegraph, and it was written by somebody who was a passionate Brexiteer who is bitterly disappointed with what has not been delivered since that general election at the end of 2019. Now, we do have an important piece of legislation going through the Commons at the moment. You were very involved in this from the early days. So are we going to be successful? Are we going to scrap thousands of EU laws?
Yes, I mean, assuming the House of Lords doesn't try to block it.
Yeah, let's just scrap all these laws and make it more difficult for us to have a common sense relationship with EU. That just sounds like a really good idea.
And I think they won't, because it got through the House of Commons with large majorities. Tiny rebellion, 4 Tory MPs voted for one amendment.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of support in the Commons. It's a clear consequence of Brexit. It has strong arguments for it on a technical basis in terms of tidying up the statute book, which is important. And it is an important restoration of the common law for our way of doing things. And Cheryl Jacobs is a very good columnist and is always interesting, but I think she was much too gloomy. But Brexit is a means to an end in the end. That what?
Oh, shit. I think he meant to say. That it's. What did he say then? It's a means to an end. But I think what he was meant to have said is it's an end without any means. Because stop.
What are we trying to do? We're trying to govern ourselves. And you and I think that if we govern ourselves, we will do it better.
Oh, please, stop. It's like, if we run... This is a Tory saying that if we run it, we can run it better. They've been in power for 13 years and look at the country. The nurses going on strike for the first time ever in 100 years. The teachers gone on strike. The nurses gone on strike. We had solicitors on strike, like everywhere. And that's like it. That, I mean, if it was a general strike, then it would make sense that you've got all these people coming out in support of other industries or other, like coming out in support for the nurses and the teachers. But no, these are all individuals, like unions, coming out on strike because everything's been run so badly. And then you go, no, we will run the country better when you're actually running it really poor now. The mind boggles. I mean, the thing is, like, you could turn around and say, like, Labour will do a piss poor job. But, like, the last time Labour did a really bad job was in the 70s. So when Tony Blair was in, he did a lot for the country. Oh, he did a lot of crap stuff, but he did a lot for the country in terms of, as a result of Labour being in it for whatever it was, is 10 years, the country was able to sustain quite a bit of the austerity imposed by the Tories. But now that the Tories have been in for 13 years, there is nothing left in the tank. But because the Tories don't understand that, they think we shouldn't be using food banks because the money that we're getting, we're paid enough. They come out with things like, oh, did you know that Tesco's has a value brand? Like many of the people didn't know. And shop at Aldi where it's a lot cheaper. They're not sponsoring me, but they are a lot cheaper. The mind boggles with the nonsense that just continuously comes out of these Tory mouths without realising that they're talking nonsense. It's more than depressing.
Because it gives us an opportunity to have lower taxes, to be more deregulatory, to have an immigration policy that suits us, and so on. There is always the risk with Brexit that the electorate decides to elect a left-wing government that doesn't want these benefits. But
So what you're saying is that if there were massive benefits from leaving the EU, that if Labour came in, they wouldn't want any of those benefits and they would want to reverse it. So what you're effectively saying is that if Brexit worked, a Labour government would come in and reverse it just because they don't want those benefits, or something like that. I don't know. It's a bit much to unpack at 12:30 at night.
accept that and indeed embrace that because we believe in democracy as being fundamentally more important. It's actually Tony Benn's thing that he would rather have a bad parliament than a good king, because ultimately a good king will fail.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he meant. What you're effectively saying is that it's better to be in charge of your own destiny and run the country into the ground than be a part of something that's working, but we're governed by somebody else. I mean, it's nonsense anyway, because we have control. This myth about taking back control is nonsense, because we've had control, we just chose not to exercise them. But you just carry on talking your nonsense.
Sack the Parliament, and we couldn't sack the European Commission. I get that, but do you understand the anger and frustration that Britain's small businessmen and women are feeling, that the fishing community are feeling? They're saying, hey, we back this thing. We haven't as yet felt any benefit at all. And
we should do more. We should be punchier about what we're doing to help small businesses. For example, I think it's a pity we haven't taken this to help small businesses, but help consumers, taking 5% VAT off fuel. I think we should be doing things.
A Brexit benefit would have been clear.
Brexit benefit.
So why does a Conservative Party with an 80-seat majority on the back of Brexit not do these things?
There is, partly it's been working through what can be done. Partly the legislative process takes longer than you might like. Partly some of these things are happening. So there is a bill before Parliament to deal with financial services.
Hang on. Wasn't it you two? Weren't you two part of the group that were calling anyone that was speaking the obvious, saying the obvious, that you're just doom and gloom, you're just... No, hang on. Shit. So, hang on. So, but wasn't it you two were the people at the front shouting down the others that were talking like stuff that you could that was completely obvious would happen, that it's in no way going to be as easy as you said that you were saying it was going to be, but yet you're sitting there now saying that this is the reason why it's not happening so fast, and that's the reason why it's happening, why we can't get this through, and we're struggling to make sense of it. But it was you two were the ones with the loudest voices, and now you're saying it as though none of that was said, that you wasn't warned, the remoaners and Project Fear. And then you just sit there with a straight face saying, oh yeah, we haven't got it done so far. The fishermen have been shafted because
Solvency
Yeah,
II
there is.
will be dealt with. There's the gene editing bill, which is very important. And you know, this hasn't been much picked up, but you'll like this. We have saved £191 billion. Forget the 350 million a week, £191 billion by not being part of the COVID rescue package of over €2 trillion.
Do you know what?
That is a success.
I wish that was being shouted rather more loudly. I genuinely do.
I put it in an article in the Telegraph, and I mentioned it in the House of Commons. So I'm doing my bit.
No, you are,
but,
and you also
now you can do
and
it
you
too.
also said that if the civil service go on strike on the 1st of February, wouldn't even
Nobody would
notice
notice.
because they're all working from home.
Well, I love this idea that they're going to be standing outside their own house with a thing saying "Do not quite cross this picket line." So, will they be able to go into their house for supper?
Jacob, a pleasure.
yeah. So I quite literally have nothing else to say from that. I quite literally feel dumber for sitting through that and replaying it so that I can understand it. Because you've got Nigel Farage asking him questions that the questions that people were saying would happen, as though people didn't confront him with this beforehand. And then you have Jacob Rees-Mogg responding as if so he wasn't warned beforehand that this stuff would happen, and he just kept spouting out bloody Project Fear and doom and gloom, and you just need to believe more. But yet he's here answering these questions as to why that stuff hasn't happened, and he's reeling it off. Oh, because of this and because of that and the unexpected, the stuff that people told you would happen. I really, yeah, it's that's too much for one person to take in. But anyway, let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, share, or, you know, whatever.